Welcome to the Seriously Social podcast with your host, Simone Douglas. Today's guest is Elaine Bensted, CEO of Zoos SA. She chats with Simone about animal welfare, social media, and the intersection between charity and the corporate world.
Okay, so today joining me on the Seriously Social podcast is Elaine Bensted, CEO of Zoos SA. Elaine, maybe we can start just with the Cliff Notes version of how we find you here today and what Zoos SA is up to. I know it's a big topic, but let's see if we can get the first 10 seconds of it.
Yeah, so Zoos South Australia is a conservation charity. We run two zoos in South Australia. Adelaide Zoo, second oldest zoo in Australia and one of the smallest. Yeah. And then Monarto Safari Park, which is fairly new and by far and away the largest. So two totally different experiences, but at our heart we're a conservation organisation.
Yeah, and you've created some amazing experiences out at Monarto. One of the things that I'm really fascinated by is you really have reinvented, what zoos are all about to a degree with a lot of the initiatives that you've put in place. What has really driven that change for you guys?
Look, I started the zoo in 2012 and I wasn't from a zoo background. I was the chief executive of TAFE, which is vocational education. And zoos, conservation and education is really what our focus is, about connecting people. So we developed what we call our master plan, and it was really how do we deliver our mission, which is connecting people with nature and saving species from extinction. And we asked the question, what changes do we need to make to be better at our mission? So how do we connect more people and therefore how can we save more species? And that's really dictated the changes that we've put in place. So, at Monarto, one example that everyone loves is Lions 360, which sort of reverses the zoo context in that the people are in the cage and the lions are in 11 hectares and they can choose, do they want to interact? And they usually do because people smell good to them. Yeah. And they'll be around and they'll be on top. And it's always trying to design things that are really good from an animal welfare point of view. So it's always the animal's choice if they want to interact. And it's about connecting people and creating a wow. And then at the same time, raising more money for conservation. So everyone who does that Lions 360 experience is helping contribute monies that we send to Africa, to the Zambian Carnivore program. So we're helping our lions wild partners. So that's the sort of philosophy we've tried to apply to everything that we do. Is it good for animals, good for people and good for conservation? And unless it meets the sweet spot and does all of those, we keep tweaking it until it does.
No, that makes sense. So I think, 2020 was an interesting year for business, every business.
Yep.
But, you have you have a team of amazing volunteers and you have paid staff, obviously, and overheads. And I'm guessing that you had all of your revenue disappear overnight during lockdown as well.
Yeah, it was certainly, I've been working for about 40 years and the last 12 months has been the hardest 12 months I've ever done. Yeah, because literally revenue stopped. The bulk of our revenue comes from our visitors or our members, events, weddings, all of those things. That stopped. But most of our expenditure keeps going. So it's not like you close a restaurant and yes, your revenue stops, but you stop buying food. Yeah. We had to keep buying food and we had to keep paying half of our staff because even though we weren't getting visitors, the animal care had to continue. So we were closed for 3 months, which was not easy. We stood down half our staff on no pay. Yeah. Luckily, in Australia, the government introduced JobKeeper, and while it might not have been perfect, I tell you what, no one was complaining about it. Who got it, so that became a bit of a lifeline. And then there was some extra government funding that helped support animal feed and veterinary costs. We always knew that at least our animal care was going to continue. And I know I sit on a number of global committees, and that wasn't the case with zoos around the world. While it was incredibly challenging, and still is, at least we knew that the animal care was going to be able to continue. Yeah.
As a leader holding a team of people together that are actual human beings, What was your biggest challenge, going through that entire process? Because I know for me it was an emotional roller coaster of, like you said, standing people down, standing them back up, and these are people that you work with every day. What was the biggest challenge for you?
Oh, there's so many. And I do joke, we actually just recently celebrated, but we did. We had a barbecue to mark the 12 months since that day we closed, and I was sort of recounting some of the emotional roller coaster because it was. And you're doing it all on very little sleep. I think for sort of probably a month I was averaging 2 or 3 hours a night because you're just trying to recut the numbers in a way that
works.
But it doesn't. No matter how many times you do it, it didn't add up. And yes, they're people who are passionate, and to give them credit, we stood down half our staff on no pay, wouldn't let them access their leave entitlements because it was for us about preserving cash so that we could make sure the animal care was going to continue. So that was before we'd secured the government funding. And then a lot of other staff, we reduced their hours, managers reduced their pay but probably worked more hours. Yeah. And there wasn't one complaint. Yeah. They knew that animal care had to come first, and so they just got on. And, so you do feel the weight of responsibility when you're negotiating with governments to try and get the funding. I know exactly how important it is. Yeah. And luckily we were able to do that and then eventually bring staff back. And we always said there was 4 things that we wanted to achieve. One was making sure the zoo survived long term. One was keeping everybody's jobs. One was making sure animal welfare and our conservation didn't suffer. And the 4th was making sure that our key master plan development at Monarto, which was just on the cusp of going ahead, we wanted to make sure that continued. So 12 months on, we can say we've achieved those 4.
That's fantastic.
We say looking forward the next 12 months because we're still under a lot of restrictions. Those 4 aims still continue.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. If you were more importantly, if you're talking to business owners or people who are passionate about animal conservation and supporting some of the fantastic initiatives that are happening, what are the best ways that we can help you to achieve those goals ongoing around, maintaining employment and development and all those things?
Yeah, look, I think if it's about businesses wanting to help Zoos SA, was that the question?
Yeah.
There's a whole range of ways. We have a lot of corporate partners, and they range from little small corporate partners who provide what we call contra. So it might be providing mushrooms to us, which we feed to the animals, saves us buying mushrooms ourselves, and we in return give benefits to that company. They might hold their Christmas party at the zoo. We waive the higher fee, etc. Or they can be cash, or they can just be bring your staff and host your Christmas event at our venue. We have people do corporate volunteering. So you can do some team building and go and shovel rhino poo for a day or something,
Actually, one of the really good initiatives I saw you guys do, you could purchase poo or purchase a card, whatever it was.
That was our Brown Thursday.
That's it,
I mean, I've got to say, my team are fabulous, and it has been just about drive as much revenue as possible, and obviously we haven't been able to drive that in all the normal ways, certainly when you were closed, but even when we were open we were on 20% capacity, then 50%, and so it was driving. And everyone has Black Friday, and we were trying to joke, well, what do we have lots of? And all zoos have lots of poo. And so we did a Brown Thursday, and we always knew it actually probably wouldn't raise a lot of money, but it would get some media breakthrough, and then we could promote our actual Black Friday, which was membership sales and panda experiences and things like that. And that's exactly what happened, because you could buy gift cards of either the family-friendly version or, and it was just, I give a crap about conservation. And, it was a bit of fun, a bit of lighthearted, but it was getting a serious message.
Absolutely. I think there was a business that started, not here in Australia, but he launched a business where you could order an envelope of glitter sent to your enemies. So it cost you $10 or something. He manually packed an envelope full of glitter so that when they opened it, glitter went everywhere. And I remember when I saw the Brown Thursday stuff, I'm like, that's very close to who is it that's upset you this week? Send them.
We did have running in parallel with our Brown Thursday gift cards the opportunity that you could nominate someone to shovel.
Oh, that's right.
And people had to give their reason and we did ask people, keep it lighthearted. We didn't really want it to be, but it was quite funny.
Yeah, absolutely. How more importantly, your team of creative people that get to come up with all of these ideas, it's not a massive team, is it? Because
No.
I think sometimes people look at a zoo or something and have a perception that you have, teams of 15 and 20 people doing all this stuff.
No, we don't. And I think because we're a conservation charity, we're a
Yeah.
not-for-profit. So, no, I think just about every team we've got, and I sometimes joke and sort of thank out when I'm doing public presentations
Yeah.
up to the board, and I'll say, thank to our finance team, and everybody thinks it's this massive team who've now done, I think, version 33 of the budget.
Yeah.
And it's literally Darren and Ian and me. And the marketing team is the same, and the IT team is the same. It's usually one or two. But they're creative and they're all individually passionate about conservation and what we do. And because we're not government, we do have a little bit more license to be creative and can push the boundary perhaps a little bit more than some government. And we can, and that's in not just marketing, but also in things like sponsorships.
Yeah.
I can just sit with business owners and try and work out a deal that is going to work for them and work for me, and I've got a fair amount of flexibility in how we do that. So we can drive a really good bargain. We're always on the hunt to get things for free, whether it's old lift cable, which once the lift has gone up and down so many times, it needs to be repurposed.
Yeah.
Makes really good rhino fencing.
Yeah.
We get old steel when they rip up railroad tracks.
Yeah.
So we're always on the lookout for anything that we can do and opportunities, and we can be pretty creative.
So really, it's no different to most businesses out there, because whether it's a startup business or a semi-well-established, forget the big global businesses that have bottomless pits of money, but they can give you some of that. That would be okay.
I did write to Mark Zuckerberg and ask for a donation. He hasn't replied yet because we were caught up. Do you remember when there was the media? Well, we got shut down.
Yeah,
and we're a conservation organisation. We're nothing to do with media.
Yeah.
We're the only zoos in Australia that got somehow
got
targeted.
You were the only one that got caught up in,
And it took 5 or 6 days to get back online. And for us, at any time, our social media is really important because we don't have a big marketing budget. But during COVID, when all expenditure's gone, really social media is important. So I did give a few suggestions of how he might want to help our work.
Well, it's funny you say that, because in the Newsgate, shall we call it, likewise, we had some. So the Duke of Brunswick's Facebook page got blacklisted and shut down. It's just a little pub, it's not that exciting. But the local bar, literally 50 metres up the street, they could still use Facebook. And then one of our clients, pest control company, got
there was some weird algorithm. We couldn't work out what the algorithm was, but
it took. What I found most amusing is because we have direct conversations with Facebook reps, because social media, we're dealing with it all day. So they're like, oh, it's okay, you can still advertise. I'm like, that's great, yes. So you'd still like to take our money, so you want me to pay and create the things to go in front of the people, but I can't talk to the people that actually want to talk to me. Yeah. And it was a very interesting 48 hours, and the pub took a week and a half to come back online, and I was furious.
Yes, and then I think we just got back online, and then somebody created a fake Instagram ZZSA site, things in the Malsho Safari Park site, and was trying to scam our followers, and it took us days to try and get
it shut down. Yeah. Can be really it's such a maze, because you can't just walk down the street to their Adelaide head office and have a conversation.
Oh, we were trying with Facebook. We were trying at all different times, thinking time zone differences. So we had people at 3 a.m. trying to make contact.
Yeah,
no,
really. And the hacking thing's a big thing now. So.
And getting bigger.
Yeah. We have. So I've had the social media agency for 8 years. It's never been massive in terms of volume of calls from people going, I've been hacked and lost access to X, Y, and Z. But in the last probably 6 months, we would average 2 or 3 calls a week from people who aren't clients, going, someone's hacked my Facebook and I've lost my Facebook page, I've lost my Instagram account. And it's because they've got one, and so they kind of know how the platform works, but they don't have 2-factor authentication enabled. They might not be using Facebook Business Manager to own everything. There's no guarantees that you'll get it back. you know. So I think one of the things that it drove was, what other marketing assets do we have? You know, like email newsletters and websites that we own.
And I think we pretty much, and we did have that conversation, we have it regularly about the share of our owned media. And we're very lucky that we've got a never-ending tap of engaging content. So we do own a lot of our own channels, and we do, you know, fortnightly e-newses to all of our members. And then we did live weather cross with all the TV stations. And I think even during COVID, I think the media wanted our content even more. Because people can only absorb so much doom and gloom. And at that stage you had what was happening in the US, and then you had all the COVID stories. So, you know, if they wanted a story about how our keeping staff were trying to keep our animals engaged and enriched while they weren't having any visitors, you know, a sort of
it was a great
toy car
story.
zooming around chasing for meerkats to be entertained. Everyone loved that story. So we do have content that we can easily use.
No, that's awesome. I think it's a really good point to finish on is you know, about making the most of all of the opportunities that you have in business and life. And it, I think, also comes down to what COVID taught me was the more business friends you have, the more likely you are to weather the storm. So I would absolutely encourage any business owners in South Australia or business owners with a national footprint that want to be involved in local conservation to reach out.
And to get engaged and keep those relationships when it's not in a crisis. Like, for me, you know, I've been in the role for over 8 years, and I do have regular conversations. We're not a government zoo, but I regularly feed information and talk to the Premier and the Treasurer and Department of Environment, etc., etc. So I had all of their contacts, and they know me, they trust me. Trying to create those sort of relationships in a time of crisis, it's too late.
It is.
So you need to start and play the long game with those relationships from a business point of view, and get as many friends as possible.
Absolutely.
And then draw on them.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Elaine, thanks very much for joining me today. If you do want to find a way to support Zoos SA, it sounds like all you need to do is reach out and talk about what you have to offer. And that's a conversation that everyone can have.
Any donations fully tax deductible.
There you go. Awesome. Thanks.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Seriously Social. Check our website for the latest news, show notes, and for details about Simone's latest book, Confident Networker. You'll find us at social media, aok.com.au/podcast.